Fuck, dude, it's been a minute. Hi.
Yeah. Well, it's been a minute for our audience. It hasn't been a minute for us.
I had food with you on Friday. Like, I'm fine. I had my cap time, but I guess everybody else might want some.
Yeah, it's true. You guys have been missing out on the podcast for a while now. And a lot has happened since, because we recorded an episode while we were there at TI, and that is the last thing. So October 28th. So it's almost been a full month.
Hold on, we posted that October 28th?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Because okay, so there was a week of TI, and then there was a week of vacation. Yeah. That we shared and can talk about. And then I took a second vacation, which
there was Joey's second vacation.
Saw that someone decided to just call out on Reddit, which is fun. And and then last week
I called it second vacation, even though I know that your situation. Our first vacation was probably way less stressful than your second vacation. The second one, I imagine, wasn't really a vacation, but I like just saying you went on a second vacation to make you look like a piece of shit.
Dude, I mean, I am a piece of shit. There's and then there was like a week of like I got back, and then it was the middle of the week, and there was a lot of work, and now we're here, and that's the important thing. So I just want to chalk that up to a good post TI. Like we were in our what do they call that after post coitus? We were in like refractory from TI, and now
the refractory period.
Yes. Maybe people are going to be like, Joey, are you really going to talk about like the TI finals? And the answer is probably a little bit, because it's been a minute. But there's so much other stuff to talk about.
Guys, you wanted a podcast, and we couldn't even do a podcast, even if we tried, because that refractory period, if we started talking, it just wouldn't work.
Yeah. There was no pillow talk to be had. We were just knocked out. I liked having a little bit of a break. Sorry if that was sad to anybody. I know people in Discord were, having some fun, but hey, we're here. And first things first, I have something really important to ask.
Yeah.
Do I sound different to you? Or more specifically,
do you sound different?
Better?
Sure.
Okay. Let me know. Let me know in the podcast.
Did you get a new microphone?
So I did get a new microphone.
I can see it.
And I'm testing it out. It's actually gold on this side. This is the microphone that PewDiePie uses. And
what is it exactly? Give me the hit.
It is a AKG C414XL2. And I got this microphone because there was a pricing error on their site for Black Friday.
Oh.
It's like a $1,200 microphone.
Yes.
That I got with a pair of headphones for $300.
What the
And then
why did you hit me up on that? I would have bought that.
You know what? Honestly, that was a mistake, and I'm sorry. They fixed it within an hour.
Damn.
And
how did you find out about this?
A friend said, "Hey, I think I found a pricing error." And then I looked at it, and I'm like, I think that is a pricing error.
Holy shit, that's mega value.
Yeah, and then, get this, even more value, they refunded the purchase on my credit card, but still sent the thing out. But I never got shipping email, so like I don't know what happened on their end, but I think I got it for free. And I'm trying to figure I'm trying to figure out if it's worth keeping it for any reason because it is free, or if I should just do the smart thing and sell it and just, make some money. Because I think that I truly probably don't sound that much different than I do with my other expensive microphone that was also free. But like, I don't know if there's that much of a difference that constitutes like keeping this. Because what am I going to use this for? Like, I guess we do a podcast. That's a good reason. But just like office calls, probably not.
Yeah, I mean, you work in production. I'm sure a nice microphone will be useful to you eventually outside of this podcast.
That's true. I haven't made a decision yet. We can. I'll talk to people in Discord about it. I want to know if people can actually. I'm going to play with the audio for this one. I want to know if people think that I sound better. Because if they do, I'm inclined to keep it, and if they don't, I'm inclined to be like, I can probably make like $700-800. So we'll see. Nothing gets me more excited than a good deal, Austin. So really.
I know. You're big about that. The now that I'm actually like paying attention, this could just be entirely in my head, but I do feel like you sound better. I imagine the same effect will happen on the audience, whether or not they actually notice or not. They'll feel like you do sound better. So
we'll see. I mean, we'll see.
I have a hard time with those things unless I do a direct sound test.
I was doing that yesterday. I was doing that last night, and not to bore everybody, but I was like, this is pretty close. They are slightly different microphones. One's a condenser, one's not a condenser, but yada, yada, yada. TI Grand Finals happened, and you know what? You know what? Actually, I don't think we ever got to talk about. We never spent time during the last episode because we were talking about TI about the fact that we did what I am going to call a mildly successful production at the International. Do some back pats. Really let that yawn out because I think that's.
I'm very excited about this. You can tell. Monster Morning Show went, I think, better than either of us expected. I think there was a fair amount of positive feedback. I really didn't see any negative feedback. The viewership seemed very high. Like, we got a high viewership while being on the front page of Twitch, but we also seemed to keep that viewership. So, seems like we put on a pretty good show.
I think that you're good at your job, and I faked a lot of it.
Well, I would thank you for that, but you did produce the show and be in the show, so you were the biggest factor in that show's success.
We had a lot of other people. There was a lot of people who said nice things about it, which honestly made me feel warm in a way I haven't felt warm in a while. Especially, I know that some of the Sidepool fans on Discord were like, just we saw you in chat, we saw you talking about it after the show, and just like thank you. That made my ego and self confidence feel good. I think that
we needed you guys there because there's a bunch of random showing up from the front page of Twitch. Mm-hmm. What is this? What are they talking about?
I expected just like a silly thing that we can probably get paid for and then get swapped into the rung. But I think Monster was happy. There was like a Reddit thread. I had fun doing it.
Yeah, we were supposed to be scamming Monster out of some money, and it turns out they liked it. Oh shit!
Mike, don't listen to this. But dude, that really was crazy. Some of my favorite parts about that were not all the episodes were live for, reasons mostly revolving around like your schedule or other people's schedule.
I think that was fairly obvious to anybody who watched it. The 2 episodes that we pre-recorded, I think there was numerous jokes about it being definitely recorded. Pre-recorded.
And my favorite part was watching the people who were like half paying attention learn midway through or at some point of the episode that it wasn't actually live, and it felt like we were doing a Twitch no-no. Like, you're really not supposed to do that on Twitch, especially when you have front page.
Wait a minute, are all my chat interactions not actually being utilized right now? Can they not respond to what I'm saying?
Man,
no.
We had some fun guests on. I was super excited that the Arteezy stuff went well. People seem to like that.
Yes.
I was super
That is the biggest comment that I got was the Arteezy interview was very good. So, good.
There was a moment in the middle of the interview where you tossed over to me and I was just completely unprepared because you were out of questions. Yes. And I was also I don't know what's going on right now.
I was like, I need a little time to think of another question because not to say that we were totally unprepared, but we were probably a little unprepared for that interview. It was right at the start of the morning, and we had been recording a bunch of other stuff, and I was doing TI and stuff like that. So it was. And also, I like interviews to be a little bit more on the fly. I feel like that whenever I've done interviews. I always feel like it works out better when I don't have a bunch of pre-written questions. And you just because then you obsess over your questions too much.
It's true. You got to be able to flow.
With the flow of the conversation. Yeah.
Loda didn't give us COVID, which was great. Actually, you know what? Big picture. Let's zoom out for a second. We went to TI in a region that like when I was going to TI, I got like a notification like the day of that like there was like a new variant in Singapore and like people are getting sick there, and I'm just looking like, well, this is gonna be a shit show. And you know, shout outs to Snake King or anybody else who like got sick, right? But like we didn't get sick at TI, and that big win, my book, big win.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially since we were on vacation immediately afterwards. I've been telling everybody there was a point in that tournament that I just no longer cared about the tournament. I was just like, I was all in on just not getting COVID and being able to go on vacation. Because have you done a vacation like that before? Have you done tropical vacations?
I've been to Hawaii, so kind of, okay. I guess, yeah.
Yeah. I've never done that. That was the first time for me.
So that's exciting.
I did not want to get that fucked up.
Dude, so at the TI after party, I think there was probably like what?
Oh my god.
400 people there maybe?
There was far too many people in far too small of a space. I would not be surprised if we were pushing the limit there on the occupancy rules.
So how many people at the after party, not to call anybody out because I guess I'm calling everybody out, were wearing masks?
Pretty much nobody. I was wearing a mask. Ellie was wearing a mask.
I wore a mask.
You were wearing a mask.
And then there was a couple other people, but yeah, all three of us are looking at each other like, fuck, we have to be here. We want to be here. We cannot get sick. We're getting on a plane tomorrow to go to Bali.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, I didn't stick around for super long. I mean, Slacks did his typical show up for like half an hour and then ditch. I stayed for probably about an hour and a half, maybe. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I did not stay there for long. And I also got there pretty early. So I got there when there was I got there when it was pretty much opening. So there was far less people. By the time I left, I was very uncomfortable with being in that room.
We were on like the 75th floor of a building, which was really cool because there was a thunderstorm going on. And there's like karaoke and food. And it was a pretty good party. Got to, spy on who was talking to who and be like, ooh, look at all this drama. But, I was just like, man, I cannot get sick. I cannot get sick. And luckily, no one did. No one got sick as far as I know. So, good times.
Yeah.
It's also...
And also, apparently, there was... you told me that hand and foot disease or whatever is going out of control in Singapore too, or Bali rather.
In Indonesia. So to any of our Indonesian audience, which I know there's a non-zero amount of, we come from Singapore to Bali for a trip. There was like 10 of us who were hanging out, had a great time. We had like a little Airbnb situation. And upon leaving Bali to go to, I went to Australia. You went back to Singapore. Apparently, they didn't tell you about this, but Australia is really strict about letting other like biological things through, both Australia and New Zealand. And they told me as soon as I got on the plane to Sydney, hey, everybody, there's an outbreak of hand, foot, and mouth disease in Indonesia. And I'm like... why am I finding out about this now? We were there for 4 or 5 days. Why am I just now finding out about this contagious disease? And Australia's like, you have to take all your shoes out. You have to clean them. You cannot bring anything with dirt into the country. You cannot bring like any food into the country. No drink into the country. Like it was super strict. And when we got off the plane, we had to like walk through big sanitization areas and like scrub our feet to make sure that like we weren't bringing in any like footborne ickiness. So that was scary. No one got sick from that either, so everything was fine. But I hope everybody who's in Indonesia has clean hand, feet, and or mouths.
Yeah, I didn't even know what that disease was. I had to look it up after you told me about it.
I got it once as a kid.
I had no idea until Joey came over a couple days ago and was like, yeah, we had to do that when we went to Australia. I was just, what? Singapore nor did the US say anything about that to me.
They don't care.
So
Australia cares. New Zealand cares a
Ignorance is
lot.
bliss, I guess. Yeah.
Bali was fun. We went whitewater rafting together. We hung out in a fancy pool and got served a lot of Bali food and drinks, and I had a good time.
Yeah, well, we basically, for those of you guys who didn't see any of our posts on social media or anything, we rented out a villa as a group, and there was like staff there and chefs and stuff, and they would make food for us, and there was a great big pool. Well, there was actually technically 3 pools, so nobody used the upstairs pool.
That was like your private pool.
Yeah, there was like this little private like hot tub sized pool between 2 different rooms.
Upstairs pool. There was an upstairs glass bottom pool.
Yes. Nobody used that though because it was so cold. The downstairs pools were just cooler. But yeah, we just pretty much hung out in the pool and looked at the ocean, and
it was
that was my kind of vacation for me. It was like I did the whitewater river rafting. All right, that's cool, but otherwise I didn't do shit. I did that one activity, and then I just chilled out the full 5 days. It was great.
That was the first time that I've taken a vacation even close to that. That was a lot of just chilling, and I see merit in it now. I see value in doing nothing. I definitely felt uncomfortable with the amount of like people who were there at the location that were like serving us. I kind of was uncomfortable with like the pampering that was going on, because they like, we can like call and just have like massages show up, and this is too lux.
I like that part. The massages part was great. we learned that you could just call in and get massages for like $20, and then we just did that every day.
They made drinks for us like nonstop. It was pretty truly lovely. I wasn't there for the final night because our flights to Sydney were red eyes the day before we were checking out of Bali. But I heard that it's a good thing that I missed the final night, because apparently you got like attacked by water bugs, and I haven't quite asked you about this.
We got a bunch of like water beetles. So there was, I don't know exactly what happened, but the weather was kind of turning as we were there. The first day we got there, it was beautiful, bright and sunny and hot. And then as time went on, we would get morning, it would be hot and sunny. And then afternoon, we would get storms. We would get thunderstorms. And the thunderstorm, I guess the night before was probably the biggest one, but I don't know exactly what the change was. But for whatever reason, our villa, which was, it's basically all kind of outdoors except for the rooms itself.
Yeah, the rooms are the only things that were inside. Like all the living space, all the dining space, basically everything is just open air.
Yeah, it's all open air, so something like that, you can't actually stop it. So yeah, just a bunch of like these water bugs. They just invaded the entire fucking villa. It was pretty crazy. We talked to them. Apparently this happens like once a year. Happens pretty rare. So yeah, we just happened to be there on the night that it happened. It was pretty interesting. We ended up going into that little living room where we did one of the massages. We had dinner there to kind of get away from all the bugs, because there was actually 2 different kind of bugs. There was also something else that was conglomerating on the ground somewhere. That wasn't the water bugs, but yeah, that was an interesting one. They were drawn to the light, and so of course they all just invaded the living room and everything else. We had to go to our rooms and like close out all the shades and turn off the lights and stuff.
When you were dealing with that, I was dealing with what was probably the worst cab ride of my entire life. Because we were so far, we weren't like crazy far out, but we were like pretty far out from like the city, right? And because of Friday night traffic and the fact that there's like all the roads are one way, there's a bunch of scooters. There's not like really.
What time did you guys leave?
Oh God, I don't know. I think we left at like 5 o'clock, maybe.
Yeah,
like
so it was just in time for some real crazy rush hour traffic.
It took me 3 hours. in the back of a small car with 3 people and packed luggage while to get to the airport with the windows down, smelling like 2-stroke engines the entire time. So Ugh. And I was like a little drunk because I was drinking before we left.
Day drinking, the entire time.
Yeah. And then the guy was listening to a radio station that was like hardcore music, but sped up hardcore music. So it was like 200 BPM the entire 3 hours, and it felt like I was in a fever dream. I have never wanted to be somewhere less ever. Eventually it came around. I started enjoying it, but it was rough. They were playing samples of the music, but because everything was so sped up in the mix, everything sounded like Alvin and the Chipmunks. Like everything was high pitched. So there was like Evanescence coming on. It would be like, wake me up, it's I can't wake up. And I'm just going fucking crazy in this car, Austin. And then we get to the airport, and I'm like, oh, thank God, this is great. There's a huge line to get on the flight. It's fine. We're there super early. I get to the counter, and the guy takes my passport for my boarding pass, and he's like, where's your visa to Australia? And I'm like, what?
What? Oh, no.
You need a visa to go to Australia? Sir, I don't know if you see my American passport, but doesn't that mean I just get to go everywhere whenever I want for like whatever reason? Like no one told me I needed to get a visa. And this guy did not speak much English, so someone else came over and had to talk to our party and be like, oh yeah, you just like download the app and then you just apply and it'll take like 20 minutes and whatever. So we go to do all that, get to the terminal, have what I think was like some bad food in the airport, because as I am waiting to get on the airplane, warning, this is a poop story, I want to die again for a different reason, because my insides are melting and I'm not quite sure why I feel so bad. It feels like I'm getting really sick and I just like can't move, can't talk, like just want to like stay in a singular spot and not move a muscle, which is not a thing that you generally want to do in an airport, because I don't know, an airport's not a comfy spot for that, right? No. So this peaks for me a little bit before boarding starts on the plane. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Like, whatever. It's going to be messy. That's fine. Just get it all out of me. I'll feel better. I get back.
Wait, which direction?
Bottom, not top.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I get back. Plane starts boarding. And I realize as soon as the plane starts boarding, oh no, I'm going to vomit everywhere. So I give my bags to my friends who are with me. And I'm like, please text me at the last possible moment for me to get on this plane. Because the bathroom's right by there. Like, I need 30 seconds. I just give me as much time as possible. And I go to the bathroom and I am like, I almost like, so I have this fear that I'm going to take the large handicap accessible bathroom from someone who actually needs it. This has never really been a problem for me, but I think about this all the time, because generally when given the option, I like the room, I like the space, you know?
Yeah, most people do.
Yeah, most people do, right?
In my head, I always just, it's like, if I come out there and somebody is handicapped waiting, I'll just say, sorry, the other stalls were full when I got here.
You have a contingency plan. So yeah. I have the opposite of that problem happen, where someone rolls out of the bathroom in a wheelchair and then I immediately go back in, because in a lot of European countries, their handicap bathrooms are like really nice. They have like private sinks and more room. Like, it's generally really great, right? And I am just pacing fucking circles around this stall trying to get myself to throw up so I can get on this plane. I'm like, I'm going to force myself to vomit. And I can't.
Oh, no, that's the worst feeling.
So I get like the message. I have to go board the plane. I go to board the plane. I put my bag up. I'm still not feeling that great. I go back to the flight attendant in the rear of the plane when everyone's still boarding. I'm like, hey, can I have a sick bag? Like, I'm really anxious about the flight, which was a lie. I felt like I wanted to die, but I didn't want to send the alarm bell. So I'm just like, hey, I don't like flying very much. Can I have a sick bag? And the dude looks at me and he's like, can you take this flight, sir? And I'm like, yep, totally can take the flight. Yeah, totally fine. I go and sit back down in my seat. It is the left side of the middle row of 3. And then I look to my left to the seat rows that are by the window, and immediately 2 feet to my left, there's a dude with a sick fag who's throwing up, and I'm like, oh my god. No. So I'm like, maybe this is my chance. Maybe he can help me vomit because I'm like listening to him retch right now.
Okay.
And I still couldn't do anything. I eventually destroy the bathroom again, go to sleep the entire way to Sydney, wake up in Sydney feeling fine. But it could have been worse. Maybe
think that guy had the same food as you.
Maybe. Or maybe I shouldn't have been day drinking before the flight. I don't know. Bunch of things. I make it to Australia safe. You're right. I won't go too crazy and do it, but the second part of my vacation, the Australian part of the vacation, was with my family. And it was their first time. It was their first time ever being out of the country. And Australia, Sydney, very easy place to visit from someone who has, done some traveling and, been in some places that are unfamiliar. Sydney, it's probably up there with London if you're like discounting Canada as like most places like Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Really high up there on the list. And there was some tension. I played a lot of like peacekeeper with family to try and make sure everything was like, nice, and no one tried to go home early and leave, which only happened once.
What was the biggest culture shock they experienced, as mild as it is from America to Australia?
For my dad, it's food. Even with things being like relatively similar and like food being like commonwealthy food, just not being able to like get into that same routine of like having comfort options, because even like, you go to Five Guys, which exists there, then like, suddenly they put onions on your burger when you don't want it and then you throw a tantrum. It's like a thing. Anywho, I'm just hoping he's not behind the door listening.
So you're not planning on another family vacation to a more exotic place anytime soon?
So I think that I can maybe do London, and even that will probably make me really I'll probably second guess that based on the experience of Australia and New Zealand. But it's like a mix, right? Because like I want to have these experiences with my parents and my sister while they're like, well, especially my parents, like while they're still spry enough to be able to theoretically get on a plane for that long and go walk around and travel and explore. But they're not really built for it like I am, in the sense that I like enjoy and I like the novelty of it. I think that it just makes them anxious, even if they do enjoy it at some level. And I'm like having a therapy session now, trying to, square that circle of maybe I should just enjoy time with them here where it's comfortable and things are nice, and not try and, go see the world, because maybe I'm more interested in that than they are.
Sure.
But
my mom came and visited me in Germany. For I think it was the second. So I went there in the beginning of December. I spent that Christmas alone. So maybe it was the next Christmas, or maybe it was the year after that. I think I went home for the next Christmas, and then the year after that, my mom came and visited us in Germany, and she took a business class flight. So she was like, yeah, I'll never travel that long without a business class flight. Because my mom was, I think she's a little bit down to travel, but nothing quite like that. She's much more used to like driving around, road trips and that sort of thing.
I think a road trip is like a great compromise option. There's still, America's so big. You can go do and see so much and like experience different things. But I think that Australia, while fun, was a little bit anxious and a little bit much. I was a huge fan, and I actually really want to go back to New Zealand. I spent like 4 days in Auckland, and I desperately want to go back. That is, I remember when we were in Singapore walking around with some people, you kind of made a call out that Singapore might be one of the few cities that you could actually potentially like live in for a little bit of time.
Yep. I
felt similarly about Singapore like that. I was like, oh, maybe I can like do like 2, 4, 6 months here. Like, I think that it's, I can probably make that work. It'd be really cool. And then when I was in New Zealand, I thought that even stronger. And even for the last like week, I've been thinking to myself, how do I figure out how to do like a 6-month stint in New Zealand? Because, dude, fucking it's beautiful. Like everything there is beautiful. Everything's beautiful. The people are nice. The food is good enough. It has like a very similar like car culture, it feels like, to what I'm used to here, in the sense that, you know, you can do some road tripping. It's long like California. The weather seemed great. Like I feel like it has so much going for it that I just want to explore more. I drove so much on the left hand side of the road and had zero issues. Go me. But I want to find a way to get back to New Zealand. If anybody is listening from New Zealand, tell me how to get there and spend a lot of time there. I want to talk to you.
What are your options for moving to somewhere like New Zealand? Get a green card.
I don't know. Finding a Kiwi woman who wants
Hopefully she's listening to the podcast right now.
Yeah, if that's the case, then just
you from New Zealand? Hey. Single? Interested in Joey?
I got like at least 3 qualities that are not bad. Call now. Slide into my DMs. This is you can do that on a podcast, right? Just an open dating call. I thought New Zealand was super cool and should like genuinely be on basically everybody's travel list. High recommend. Sydney was cool too.
I've only heard good things, but I don't think we're going there for a Dota tournament anytime soon. So.
That's the thing. Like, I only went because it made sense to on my flight path back home. Like, I kind of went out of the way and like made it a point to because I always wanted to go. And in the future, I'm going to figure out just how to do more of that. Like, I want to go to New Zealand. That's my takeaway.
All right. Maybe next time I'm in Southeast Asia, consider a little hop over. How long was the flight from Southeast Asia to New Zealand?
So it was 6 hours from Bali to Sydney, and then 3 hours from Sydney to New Zealand. So not an exact science, but like probably 8 to 10 hours, depending on where you're at. And then back home, it was 10 and a half, I think. 11-ish. And there's a lot of direct flights from there to LAX too, so it's not a bad place to stop over and then get a direct flight back home for you.
All right, they got 4 different entrepreneur visas.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what kind of work.
Can I classify podcast host as entrepreneur? We have a Patreon.
Let's see. I'm exploring the work. Do not have job offer from the U.S. Let's see. Oh, there's 9 different options there.
Wow. Look at that. I mean, if Gabe Newell can do it, he can just go live there for a little while during COVID, right? Surely I can.
Millionaires have a different set of rules to everybody else in the world. They can go wherever the fuck they want because every country's just like, yes, please, we'll take your money. Just put down $100,000 and we'll instantly give you a visa, you know?
For however
There's
long
that kind of shit.
That's true. Maybe I'll convince Liquid to just open a New Zealand office.
New Zealand branch.
There's like
they have an LA office. It doesn't get much more expensive than that. So
there's not a lot of options for esports in New Zealand, which is sad. But I'm going to go back potentially for an extended period of time, probably in the next 3 years. That's what I have figured out. During my post-TI vacation. That, and I might never travel with my parents again. Anywho.
Want to talk about TI?
Oh, where do
you want to make that transition? I mean, we were in the break time, so we already knew Liquid was top 4. Mm-hmm. So now we know they got 3rd.
And you did a beautiful podcast with Blitz that really just kind of went basically game by game for the entire run. So I don't want to be too redundant on that because he will regale the story better, and also everybody should just go listen to that. So that's a strong recommend if you want some Cap Blitz and or Liquid action for TI.
You were pretty happy though, 3rd place.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, yes.
Obviously,
yes. I think am I stupid for still not thinking Tundra's that good?
What did I say? I didn't think they had the clutch factor. Well, I guess you don't need to clutch it when you're just that much better than everybody else. Jesus, it really seems like I don't know. AUI stock is through the roof for me after that. Obviously, everybody on Tundra stock is like incredibly high. Soxa is probably one of the bigger names out of that because now he's been in the grand finals twice. This time he won. 9, I think, is incredibly value. Still think I'd be interested to see what 33 looks like as an offlaner. Obviously, he was incredibly top tier for this tournament. I do wonder what he looks like in future metas because it did feel like his pool. I mean, as Ortiz put it, their offlane was just OP, right? Soxa and 33. So they were just super good. But especially after reading AUI's blog and everything, and also knowing like AUI's tendency to like know all the little nitty gritty details, like the stuff that he like I've heard him just like randomly talk about of just like, oh, like you didn't know that mechanic was a thing. And now imagine he's freely sharing that. Now imagine what shit he knows that's like top secret, you know, for his team only. And that was my understanding of that team in general. I had a term for him, dirty and nerdy. You know, they just like they don't have they take every advantage that they have and like they just know Dota better than anybody else. So yeah, they swept that finals. I do kind of wonder if I don't know, something about the break time and everything. I think it really hurt the finals specifically because I think no matter who ended up in the finals, I mean, this is maybe more of a last chance qualifier sort of thing, but no matter who ended up in the finals, I think Tundra was gonna win that because I mean they 3-0'd Secret. The Liquid, I don't think would have done much better. From my understanding, they were just exhausted by the end of it. So,
they would have.
I think maybe the really only hope was Aster, just because they were the only team who didn't have to go through that last chance qualifier. So,
yeah, I maybe call it copium. I think the Liquid would have taken a game off Tundra. At least.
Yeah, a game. Yeah.
I think Liquid would have taken a game off Tundra. I actually, I'm going to admit this, I did not watch the finals.
Oh, really? That's fair. I know a lot of people who don't watch the finals. Obviously, from a player perspective, nobody likes watching the finals. If you ever had aspirations of being a player, finals hurts the most because it's, you know, that is where you want to be. You're watching other people accomplish a dream that you had. I personally don't like watching finals either because I'm listening to a casting duo that's doing what like the position that I want to be in. But usually I still watch it. How much did I watch of TI-10? That was COVID times, obviously, so that was a messy one.
I was very emotionally spent. I think that it's not super fair to like co-opt some of the team's like tiredness because I wasn't playing the most Dota games any team's ever played at a TI. But I was on the sidelines for like every game that happened in Singapore with a crowd and with the team for chunks of it, and the loss of Game 3 right before the finals as we were watching them. So when you play in the grand finals, they actually like put seating out on the floor of the arena for like team members and like friends and family and stuff like that, so they could, you know, kind of watch down there but also like go and, you know, celebrate. And because of the way the TI venue was set up this year, the grand finals venue, which was smaller than all the other ones, there wasn't like a good spot for anybody who was in my albeit privileged position to kind of like enjoy the event. There was a very limited amount of VIP section, which was still like open in the arena. It was just like a section of seats that we only had like one extra ticket to, that was our backstage ticket. And then the press area wasn't too stellar either. There was a lot of food and drinks, which thank you very much for providing that. So there was just like a lot of free roaming that was going on. And we were like looking forward to be like, oh man, those are going to be our seats. Those are going to be our seats down there. We're going to play in the grand finals. And you know, my jaded recollection of it is that for 15 minutes maybe, game 3 looked like it was going really well, and then Liquid lost like 2 or 3 team fights, and then it was definitely over. And there was no like magic to, you know, come back. There was no those Thunder series come, you know, once in every 10,000 games. So the anguish of like being there for so many game 3s just had me pretty spent, and I watched the you know, I watched the support skit. I saw some friends in the arena. I hung out and talked to people through what is probably, to no fault of anybody involved, but the absolute worst all-star game or thing that has ever happened on broadcast ever.
I mean, okay, you say no faults. I mean, I feel like we kind of knew that was not going to be a good all-star match. I think we even said that leading up into it. I was just like, I don't know. I think it's like I get it, but like it was for my money, my analysis is this was the worst of both worlds, where you don't have the players on, but you put talent in. Okay, natural entertainers, maybe they can make something good, but you take a group of talent that don't interact with each other and don't even necessarily share the same language, and you separate all of that. So then there's no like, you know, there's no relationship there to play off of to be entertaining. And then on top of that, the communication. So what's like going out there is like, it's just SVG and Synderin. That doesn't seem great. Then they realize they need casters. Okay, so they put Slacks and Ted on, but the match isn't that good. Also, anybody who was talking about like the ability draft, like, oh, these guys don't know ability draft. Well, the intention. Have you guys ever, like, I feel like anybody who's ever said that hasn't actually played ability draft against like people who are really good at ability draft. You know what really great ability draft games, 90% of them turn out into some sort of stomp fest where one guy on one side has some OP build and one guy on the other side has some OP build, and they just smash into each other, and usually it's a one-sided stomp. So yeah, the people on stage were intentionally not trying to be, you know, trying to create the most broken build possible. They were trying to create a match that was a little bit more even, which it turned out it was even, at least ish, and drew out for an incredibly long time, and that was not great. But it's like if you don't have players on, then you should have a group of talent that are gonna make a good entertaining product, which I think that's what they did with TI-10. That was okay. The preference is still having players on, of course, but you know, if you feel like you can't get those players for whatever reason, or the players aren't gonna, you know, create a good show for you, then like get a group of talent that are gonna interact with each other well. That was kind of like the worst of both worlds for my money. Dude,
it was truly, and I'm not exaggerating, it was unwatchable in the arena. It was really bad. It was unwatchable because you like the audio was mixed weird. You couldn't hear what anybody was saying, but like everybody's mic was kind of open, but it was confusing. But like the screen in the venue was smaller because they made room for all the player cams. So the Dota screen was actually hard to see on top of being hard to hear. And then sometimes,
which there was already the segment for player cams, but they created something to put out on stream that involved the player cams on the sides, but they didn't create a separation between what was going on stream and what was going on in the stadium.
Correct.
So
yeah, so that was rough. It was actually unwatchable. I was sitting there, I was charging my phone, talking to some friends, and just going, guys, this is really bad. And it was a nice time.
I walked in halfway through, and I had to walk in to go walk to the other side of the stadium, and just walking and watching at the same time. But I was like, I don't want to watch this. I was already like, oh, this is really awkward.
And then we got a new hero announcement and everything was fine. And then I left.
Oh yeah, we did have a hero announcement. Muerta.
which I think is a carry.
Yeah, that's what everybody thinks. Everybody thinks the next hero is a carry.
Please.
And it turns out it's not. I mean, surely it's got to be a carry. We've been waiting for one for a long
10
time.
years.
I mean, I say we as the royal we, Dota community we, but I don't give a shit if it's a carry.
I do. I
don't play carries. Who cares?
The venue was a lot of fun. I saw a lot more people than I would have expected, honestly, wearing Liquid jerseys, which is really cool. The Matu chants made me a little teary-eyed, which was fun.
Yeah, it was because OG wasn't in the finals, so the OG fans become Liquid fans.
It's true. And yeah, that's the venue was fun. It was interesting to me just how many people did travel internationally for it. There was like, it's what seemed to be like a pretty diverse crowd of people there, which I wasn't quite expecting. I didn't realize until we actually got there that we were actually at the smaller venue and not the bigger one at the stadium.
Yeah, that venue was not very big. I will say that. I was a little bit surprised. I thought like, oh, you're limiting the size, right? Because it's the Key Arena, right? If you think about it, the Key Arena days or Vancouver, even the one in China, it's like because the old system where we just did Monday through Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, those were pretty slow days, and the stadium would look relatively empty. So I thought just because you're only doing the hype last 2 days, it meant big stadium, right? That's what I thought. It was like, oh, you want only a packed stadium. Like maybe this is actually what they intended. As far as I understand, I don't think there was ever an intention to like have this break set up. This wasn't something they set out to do. As I think that's the case. I think this is more of a circumstance of COVID and stuff like that and post-COVID stuff. But I thought, oh well, you only have the 2 days on the big stadium. Oh, that big and packed. That'll be really awesome. But yeah, the stadium wasn't that big.
It was. I think that, and I'm talking on my ass. Like I don't know how many tickets they could have sold. I suspect they could have like packed a venue 5 times the size. I think they could have had a real stadium of people who would have traveled. And what we were at was like a small. It's probably the smallest venue that isn't Banner Royal Hall that TI Finals is at.
Yeah, definitely. Because Key Arena was bigger than that, and I think
Key Arena's
Vancouver
double the
was
size
bigger
at
than
least.
that, and then the Chinese stadium is huge. So
yeah. So
but,
I that is what it is. I think that it's interesting that the arena like didn't care for Tundra that much, and I kind of hope that in the future they like these people have like made a name for themselves. Yeah. But like that felt a little flat, not only because like it was a stomp, but also because
basically it was like a trickle down of like there was a bunch of fans, Western European fans or just fans of like big top tier teams. Mm-hmm. And most of them probably fans of OG. Mm-hmm. And then OG gets knocked out. Oh, now we're fans of Liquid. Liquid gets knocked out. I guess we'll cheer for Secret.
Puppy, right? Like sure.
Secret's not winning. And then there was just like by that time you get down to like the 5% from your original 5% of those original OG fans are like, yay, go Tundra, you guys are doing great. But yeah, the audience was not backing them nearly as much as obviously if there was one of the bigger names in there. Because it was like, I think there were so many people who were like, I guess I'm cheering for Secret now, and then Secret just gets stomped.
Yeah. So. It was, I had like some kind of sick perverted fun in starting some Liquid chants. I really liked the energy in the arena when it was like exciting. And then after that, oh buddy. Maybe I'll take some time and watch the finals just because I'm curious. TI did do something for me that I haven't done in a long time.
Yeah, what's that?
I've played like 20 games of Dota this last week.
Yeah, it seems to happen. A lot of people, I have not done that, but seems like it happens with a lot of people. Every single TI happens. A bunch of people come back and play a bunch of Dota. So.
Particularly, I've actually been playing basically all those games are Dire Tide games, because it feels like I'm still getting a lot of the fun of Dota without like that high stakes, like actually sitting down and playing a Dota game and laning and understanding, some meta stuff and remembering that I forgot which jungle camps are where now, blah, 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 blah. So I've actually been quite enjoying Dire Tide and the second half of the Battle Pass way more than I anticipated. And I think that I would even go as far to say that I think the second half of the Battle Pass is successful. Even with all the shit that I believe it rightfully got for the first half and its involvement with TI and its lack of stuff and, its lack of innovation, I think that the core thought of, TI is going to end. People are going to want to play Dota. Here's new game mode. Here's free Arcanas. Here's free Dota Plus. Here's, interesting, mechanics.
The free Arcanas, man. That really pulled in people.
Holy shit.
Oh, shit. They heard the news spread around. You're like, wait a minute. I can go back to Dota and get a free Arcana? Holy cow. Yeah. People just jumped in droves. So much so that it broke the system for a long time.
Yeah. I think that the Candy Works is fun. Like there's a lot of people, like posting and getting joy out of, getting free stuff. That was some of the most fun that I had in like OG Dota. We're talking like 2011 is just like, getting a drop after a game, being like, ooh, look at this axe item, right? Like I think that there's some of that whimsy that's almost nostalgic that's built back up. So I've played a non-zero amount of Dire Tide games, and
the Dire Tide mode, they did a pretty good job with it. I still, generally speaking, do not like PvP modes in Dota, because Dota is such a great game that it's like, why do I want to play a variation of Dota? I just want to play regular Dota. But because of the matchmaking system, I've been playing less and less Dota over the last year and a half. So I guess I am beginning to understand people who like play turbo mode and stuff, because I have been playing more Dire Tide than I expected. And part of that is just like, I kind of feel like playing Dota, but I don't necessarily feel like playing matchmaking. I get into a party queue, we play some sort of Dire Tide. Yeah, it's pretty good. But I kept playing it because the mode was better than I expected. I think a lot of the adjustments that they did were very good. Like having the whole goal, instead of bringing candy back to your well, having to deliver candy to the enemy well makes much more sense. There's less abuse when it comes to that sort of thing. So.
And the map's fun, and it's fun to just feel like overpowered the hero. It's always, especially for someone who will play a support role sometimes, but never get to experience, your Desolator, Crystal Maiden, Ag Shard build. Like, you can do that, which is just fun, right? So I think there's just room for whimsy.
I played, probably the most fun that I had was I played Lone Druid, and what I would do is I would just sit on the snowball. I would take the snowball mount, and then I would just stay on the snowball on my hero and have my bear just attacking people while I'm snowballing on top of them. It's a pretty fun combo. I'd just be rolling around, stunning them over and over again while my bear does all the work. That was probably the most fun I've had so far.
I've been playing a lot of anywhere from meme to serious, but I think that I've had the most fun just playing Night Stalker, because I enjoy playing Night Stalker. It's not fun in the mode because it's very seldomly nighttime, which actually makes the hero relatively weak, all things considered. I was
curious how that works. When is it nighttime?
It's nighttime when Roshan is sleeping, and that's it, which is like a very small percentage.
That's
of the time.
Useless time to be strong.
Correct. But like, I had a lot of fun playing Night Stalker. Been playing a lot of Slardar. I think Gyrocopter is actually pretty fun and good too. But yeah, I didn't expect that to happen. So, I cashed in my free Arcanas. I've gotten a lot more levels than I thought I would in my Battle Pass, and I have to decide if I'm going to spend $20 or $30 and just get the Razor Arcana, which is actually a hero that I play somewhat frequently. So I'm going to see if I get sucked into that rabbit hole. But
yeah, I can definitely grind up to the Razor Arcana. I'm only like 10 or 15 levels away. But now I'm in striking distance for the Faceless Void one, which I will probably, I'm going to try not to, but I'm going to try and grind to like the exact level basically. But I haven't been playing as much Dota lately, because I've been I picked up a different game. But
you've been playing Deep Rock again?
I played a little bit of Deep Rock because I got SVG, and I actually got Slacks into it as well. But then there's a same genre of game. If you guys know what I'm talking about, it's like the Left 4 Dead style 4-person team PvE. That there is a new game in that regard with a Warhammer 40K. They came out with Darktide. So there was Vermintide. Now there's Darktide. So it's in pre-release beta right now. So it's like if you buy it, you can play it early. So I've been playing that with Slacks played for the first time with us today, but I've been playing it with Ellie and Avery. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Nice break from Dota.
I am probably 24 hours out from no-lifing it over the long Thanksgiving break and playing.
Yeah? You gonna play?
And
we'll play together.
God of War.
No. All right. Well, I mean, that's fair. I've heard very good things about it. I know God of War is a good game. I watched. So I actually have started watching some streamers play some story games like that. So I watched a little bit of. I watched an okay amount of God of War, the last one, and then some of this one, just enough to like pick up some of the story and things like that. I mean, it does look like a great game. I probably will not play it because now watch somebody else play it, so what's the point? Yeah. Also, aren't those I feel like the God of War games, especially now, the newer generation, I feel like they're more for watching the story and stuff than actual gameplay, even if the gameplay is good.
We'll see. I mean, I very much enjoyed 2018, like a lot, and I also liked all the other ones. And it has been one of the hard parts of the whole trip and vacation. Hard part, Jesus, check my privilege, was that I was waiting the whole time to be like, oh man, I gotta go home play God of War. It's out and I can't play it yet. So like, I have a PS5 just to play. So I might just disappear from the face of the earth for like 4 days at the end of this week. Family want to do Thanksgiving? No, that's okay. I'm just gonna play video games, and then I also have to try and play Pokemon Violet, which I am hearing more and more people say more and more bad things about. That?
Sounds like a shit show.
I've played every generation of Pokemon games.
Oh, that's right. You played every generation, so you're a completionist, so you gotta play every future generation.
I'm trying to break myself of that, though. So maybe this is the time where I just go, you know what? I'm not having fun. I'll stop. But we'll see. I'll update everybody on that later. Maybe we can round this out by talking about a bit of some of what we know for roster news and teams shaking stuff up. I believe that the cutoff date for new rosters is December 4th. Which is in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So we're going to begin to very rapidly know who's signed to what team and what I think next year is going to start to look like. And right now I think we know more about who's been dropped versus who's been picked up. The big story here, and not to make this about myself, but last time we did a podcast, I recall giving some advice to an org called Evil Geniuses that they should just shit can their roster and pick up a South American team, and I promise I did not know that was going to happen when I said that, but I agree with the business decision, assuming they're paying the South American team a lot less money. Because I don't know what they're getting paid.
Yes.
Undoubtedly,
yes.
What I don't agree with, and there's a lot of reasons about it. I know that they got shit on it. I know that it's like beating a dead horse a little bit. But boy, when you are like the bastion of North American Dota for a decade, and then you just bow out, especially with people on your roster, say Arteezy, who might still be one of the largest named Dota players ever. I don't think that you do it with a graphic and a short tweet. I think that the organization really bungled that goodbye.
They did a terrible job.
You can say that. I can say less of that.
They realized they did a terrible job and then put out a minute and a half video. But like for my money, you should have done one for Arteezy and one for the rest of the crew, and you should have done it from the get go and not response to this stuff. But I mean, like as far as I understand, and a lot of people are saying like, oh, EG dropped their roster. As far as I understand, that organization was not happy with the team, and the team was not happy with that organization. So I don't know if that fed into it and their poor announcement thing. But even if you like, no matter what your feelings are, like you still should do a good job for your socials, because essentially, like, Arteezy is the Evil Geniuses brand in Dota. Like I'm sorry, but like there really isn't much of a brand for EG outside of like Arteezy and Crit at this point in time, who have been with EG for so long, and Arteezy was on like the good old days of EG with that TI4 roster as well. PBD is so far removed from the scene at this point in time, so it's like, okay, like Arteezy is EG. Do you want to hold those fans or not? If you do, you should probably do a good job of sending them off, because especially since you're transferring regions, you really should. Honestly, I'm the way they did that announcement, I'm just surprised they're still in Dota.
Kind of,
they
yeah.
just didn't really give a fuck.
That's, I mean, it's kind of unfair, I guess, maybe because maybe there was turbulence with the team. Maybe they didn't care. Maybe they're trying to divest from Dota a little bit, but they're still probably spending a non-zero amount of money on a roster that could do pretty well. Like they still care about Dota, I think. But for me, it's really the
they
Arteezy.
also did a bad job with sending off their StarCraft roster previously when they dropped StarCraft. So this is a thing that they've done. That as far as I understand, they're
also getting some shit. They're getting some shit right now for their League of Legends departures too.
Oh yeah, what's wrong with their League of Legends departure? What would they do?
I think that people are like actually unfairly, and this is not me trying to pat myself on my back, or my team on their back, but I think that they're getting unfairly compared to some of the stuff that we're doing for our departures, and saying like, oh wow, Impact and these players went to Worlds with you, and you guys are just like doing a quick little highlight video or a quick little tweet, as opposed to like, look what did for Bjergsen, or look what T1's doing, or look at all the other teams. Like they're just
so
like
this is a continual problem for them.
I think because they're not equipped with either, they're not equipped with the resources to probably do it the way that their team wants to do it. I imagine if I talked to the people inside of EG who are doing the content or doing the socials, they would want to do more and are probably like just not given the resources or the funding for probably business decisions to do it, right? So it feels more like
I just hear bad things about
thing.
this investment group. I feel like that's the line that goes around. That investment group that came in, bought out EG. It sounds like it's created a culture that doesn't seem to like really care that much. Honestly, EG brand as a whole just kind of lacked personality for a while,
which is such a bummer. If you were to ask me like what my two favorite esports brands are, probably forever, the answers are Team Liquid and Evil Geniuses. And where does that come from? That comes from me being a StarCraft 2 fan in 2010 and having that be North American StarCraft, and then having both of them go into Dota, and EG's legacy in Counter-Strike, and Liquid evolving, like all these things, that rivalry. Someone asked me the other day, like, who's like Team Liquid's rival? And like the historian in me wants to be like, oh, it's EG, easy. We play in so many of the same games together. But now it's like, well, I don't really know, because it feels like EG isn't just EG anymore, and that is sad as somebody who is like a longtime fan. Like I have EG merch like here. Like it exists. I don't wear it very much because it would be silly, but like I have it. I care about them. I really like what Alex Garfield did. I really like what Alex said on Twitter, breaking some silence that he has to talk about the roster, because clearly he was bummed out about the situation. Like it's I desperately want them to be better in a way that I don't feel for other teams. I don't care if Cloud9 is better. I don't care if 100 Thieves is better, right? But like, I really want EG to be better.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I was similar to you, even if I was never a StarCraft fan. Like, being like watching early Dota 1, right? And like realizing there was competitive Dota, and then in turn trying to find like who was the best to like kind of like look what high tier Dota was at, and then in turn trying to find a team to support. And of course I'm looking for an American team And I don't think EG ever had a Dota 1 roster, but they immediately had a Dota 2 roster as soon as Dota 2 was announced, and they were at TI with that roster. And those same guys were, many of them in the TI1 Evil Geniuses were also on like the Blight USA or Ben's Fuckboys. Like Fear was at least one of them that was like on those rosters. So like, you know, that was like immediately, that was the first I looked for any American team. There was only really one. And, you know, I gravitated towards them, and then they get picked up by the Evil Geniuses. So, yeah, like EG was a brand that always meant like very, very big things for me. And yeah, they just kind of like they've been, I feel like they've been coasting off of this NA roster, basically, in terms of like, not even, I don't want to say personality, because to be honest, it's not like that team has a ton of personality.
Not really. There's like the cult of Arteezy, but even that.
Yeah. Know. And it's not like you really get much exposure to him, because most of the time he's not doing interviews. He only streams a bit post TI. So yeah, it's that. So yeah, I feel like they've been kind of coasting personality, or at least some identity wise, for a while off of their former success in this roster. Now that they don't have this roster, it's like, all right. Like I'm happy for the Thunder Predator guys, and I'm happy that the South American teams are going to get supported. But for the brand, it's just like I don't identify at all with them anymore. They don't really have a personality to me at all, so I just don't really care about them. But as far as the EG team, it sounds like that team is going to be sticking together and sticking in NA to some degree. Obviously, there's probably going to be some changes, but it seems like from the things they're talking about, they're going to stay in NA, which means that they'll still be kind of the top dog, presumably, of North America. Because if they left, then NA's looking real doom and gloom, especially from everything that I've heard about players trying to play in Europe. There are, I think, a number of players who have tried to play for European teams. We'll see whether or not they actually get on European teams, right? Because it's a weird expectation versus like, you want to, if you're going to go to Europe, you want to be on a top European team, or at least something competitive. It's not like these guys are just going to go and abandon being Div 1, going to major NA team, to going to a Div 2 European team. You know, there is this mixed of like, I want to go to Europe, but at the same time, like, how far down the list am I willing to go?
And if the region stays as strong as it was a month ago, it's crazy to think about that, to be, you know, to go to a major from Western Europe, you have to beat like a top fucking 4 team in the region
the 3
at TI.
Yeah.
Like,
the top 3 teams at TI, or if you just automatically have them taking the top 3 spots for the DPC, that leaves you 1 spot to go to as the
like a wild card for a major.
Wild card, yeah, exactly.
Crazy. I'm reluctantly excited to see if increased investment in some of this old Thunder Predator hybrid roster in South America, though, that EG winds up with, if that'll see continued success, and if they'll build off of their successful year. I think the one silver lining here, even with all the shit that I'm just talking about EG, is that they could give capital to a region that traditionally hasn't had a lot, and we can maybe see a team with even more resources perform even better.
Yeah, for sure. Wonder what their obligations are going to be as well, because EG is still like a relatively big brand, so I don't know what tournament organizers have. Like, I don't think there's any like okay, I do that's actually a lie. I do know there are some straight up like partnerships that, like CSGO, you know how like CSGO ESL has like the Pro League, and they have partnership teams and stuff like that. So I do know that was a thing for last year. You guys could probably name an organization that is like, wait, how did they get into it? Oh, well, that would be why, right? So I don't know if EG is like, if they're going to continue to be in that like sort of partnership, if there's like tournament organizers that are going to just automatically invite EG But if so, it means that like a SA team is an SA team that isn't just being invited just to represent the region, but like there may be actually like two SA teams perhaps just being invited to some tournaments, and then also a qualifier SA team or something like that. So that's a possibility. I mean, SA is like always been neglected when it comes to invites, right? And they've always been a qualifying region only for so many third-party events. And it does sound like we are going to be getting some third-party events. I don't know how many, but it sounds like we're going to be getting some with this new DPC system set up. So hopefully BTS as one big name. Yeah, I won't talk too much more about that. But we know BTS isn't getting any DPC because they said it themselves. So anybody who doesn't get a DPC, hopefully that incentivizes them to do third parties. That's
truly don't even know what's been announced, and my knowledge of what I do, like I feels like a landmine to talk about it right now. I don't know what's public. I don't know what I'm supposed to know and not supposed to know, but it's going to be very interesting to see what the season shakes up to be, and hopefully we can talk more about it soon when people make like press releases and stuff. But you know, congrats to Picaz and Matthew for getting the bag.
Yeah. And congrats to Tundra. I mean, it's always cool. Like the cool thing about Tundra is that all new TI winners, right? We went so long without having a repeat TI winner. Then OG does it, right? I think it would have been cool. It would have been a great story. And I'm still curious what Puppy has planned for the rest of his future. But in my head, entirely in my head, I'm not really like friends with Puppy or anything, but entirely in my head, I feel like that TI getting the W would be a great send off for retirement. You know, and I imagine because he didn't get it, I don't think he's going to be retiring until he does, or he literally just gets too old to be playing anymore. But that was the ideal story for that TI, I think. But instead, Tundra won, which is cool because now we're back to like all new TI winners, right? OG had it, boom, boom, and now we've got Spirit did it, and we've got Tundra doing it. Like we just keep getting new TI winners. And I don't count AUI because I don't really count coaches. This was actually a conversation that pre-TI that Shiva and I had, whether or not the Royal Roaders, like first time TI show up, become a champion, like Thompson did it. Like, who counts in that list? And for my money, if coaches do not count in that regard, because I think it's an entirely different game and pressure that you're dealing with. For me, the story of being a Royal Roader is like showing up to your first tournament or your first TI and being able to handle the pressure and not even just handle it, but flourish under it on your first try. And for me, coaching doesn't really count. So while I do hold a lot of success for the Tundra roster, I'm sure AUI is a massive factor. Like for my money, the Tundra, like it's all new TI winners. I don't really necessarily count him as the like a 2-time TI winner, even though he is. It's like I'm just saying for the storyline of like new TI winner sort of deal.
Isn't the snaking story just like so potentially inspiring to a bunch of people who are like, maybe I can win a TI?
Yeah, that guy has been grinding it out for a super long time. I heard that he's pretty humble about it. Apparently, he said that he got lucky. He ended up on a European team, and they just kind of like it worked. It didn't necessarily feel like. Actually, I would love to know if he actually feels like this lineup was that much better than any other lineup he's been on. Because I've heard a lot of players like when they talk about their teams, like sometimes when they find success and they don't necessarily feel like it's that different. Like, and I think that does make sense because from a outsider perspective, it does look like all of these teams are very close, evenly matched, year to year, right? It just feels like they get closer and closer, and there's no longer this obvious like bottom 8, top 8 sort of deal. There's no longer this obvious like, oh, these three teams are going to be in the, well, 2 of them are going to be in the grand finals. You just know it. It doesn't really feel that way. So I wonder from the player perspective if it's very similar. When you feel like your team is good, you don't have those same kind of results, and then a different roster, you feel like you're good, and then you just win TI. I'd be curious to know what that feels like difference wise for them.
I want to know when we're gonna see another Chinese team win TI now, because that feels like the story that's coming back for me, and it might be getting harder and harder now that we're seeing people retire. We don't really necessarily know what the next generation of China looks like, and it feels like a continued downward trajectory. I don't know what the hope to grasp onto is after this TI from the region.
You know what it is? Maybe it'll maybe like as Dota, like the esports scene, like as it declines, maybe it'll just loop back to China. You know, it starts off with Chinese dominance, and then it becomes internationally more even. Right, you have an American team that wins. You have C teams that are like placing, you know, top 6, top 3, and then it becomes Western European dominated, and maybe it'll start looping back at some point in time, where it'll become more internationally even, and then eventually it'll go back to Chinese dominance.
I'll take that arc. You know what? Actually, like I'm going to reject it. I hope that it happens before then. I hope that it happens a wee bit before then.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to hit on from TI, buddy? Or are we gonna call this one a show?
Not really. Is there anything really I wanted to talk about? Oh, I mean, I just think it's funny for whatever reason. So I did the late game show for the final day of TI. Me and all the casters, they sent a message to me and Suns fan like, hey, can you come on and do the late game show, your filler until the actual TI winners show up. And so that was actually the only reason I went to the stadium. I don't think I would have gone to the stadium otherwise. But I don't know what it is. I always end up working the final day, but never as a caster. I
always
had that
the bridesmaid.
realization halfway through the podcast. I was like, wait a minute. Like TI 10, obviously I wasn't there, but like TI 9, TI 8, TI 7, I didn't work main event, but like TI 6, TI 5, that one I did not do. But I think every other year, like I work the final day, but never as a caster. It's usually on panel, or TI 10 or TI 9 was draft panel. I think I was the host for the draft panel. And then this TI was a late game show, so I still had to show up. I still have to show up and go, and then I just have to watch other casters cast the final day. What's with that?
Next year's
if you're not going to hire me, if you're not going to have me cast the final day, just let me be. Just let me not be in the stadium.
Just let me wallow.
Yeah.
Next year's your year. Next year's your year.
No, I don't think so. I've given up all hope on casting final day of TI.
Next year's your year.
This point. This TI, I actually got the hope back. That was a bit unfortunate
because you were getting a lot of like mid-event
because
praise.
Of Liquid Thunder Predator and Avery also talked me into it because he's a competitive person. He thought we were doing pretty well. He talked me into it, and I was just like, you know what? Maybe he's right. You know what? This could be the year. This could be the year. What could be final day of TI? First time I've never done it. And then yeah.
Oopsie-doopsie.
I was like, oh, yeah. So at this point in time, I have given up all hope on that, which is fine. It doesn't really matter that much. It's literally just an ego stroke, but yeah. Had that thought. What else did I think? There was like, oh yeah, we didn't really talk about what you did on the break days for the Singapore break days. I don't know if you care about that though.
More work.
I didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything? I'm kind of jealous. I got to explore Singapore a little bit. Like we had 4 days, and I would say one of them we did a show recorded with Arteezy. The other day we were preparing for the show again. So like 2 of the days were just like full work days for me basically. And the other 2 days we got to explore a little bit. I got to go see a lot of Singapore stuff. We went to the top of the Marina Bay Sands, which was cool and scary. I have a weird thing with heights where I'm both scared by it, but not scared by it. It's really hard for me to figure out when it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, what do they call the pools that have the glass into? What do they call that? Yeah, infinity pools they kind of freak me out, man. That is the closest to that's the glass breaks. You won't have any control. Your water's just going to sweep you out. You could see your fate. You've been looking at this beautiful view. Yeah, the infinity pools that's not for me.
Yeah,
I'll do it because I don't want to be constrained. But yeah. not gonna have a good time doing it.
Yeah, I can't really figure out. Like, in New Zealand did some crazy zip lining and like free rope bridges and like stuff. Doesn't bother me at all for the heights. But then as soon as I'm like on top of a tall building looking down, I'm going, boy. Oh man, something visceral in my body does
Is
not
part of it
like
zip
this.
lining you're locked in?
Like the harness?
Is part of zip lining like the fact that you can't control, like you can't just like jump off, you know? Like the zip line, you're kind of like locked in sort of deal.
I mean, if I wanted to, I could unhook myself.
Yeah, but it's not the same as like standing on the edge of a tall building sort of deal, you know?
Yeah, it's true. What else did I do?
Also, the only thing I'm interested about New Zealand is the bouncy. You did the ball thing, right? What did they call that?
Zorbing?
I didn't know there was a name for it. When you get it a giant zorbing. How is zorbing?
Dude, zorbing's really cool.
So if you guys you just Google it. You don't know what we're talking about. ZORB, zorbing. It's when you get into this giant plastic ball like you're a hamster and you roll around on this giant course. What is that like?
You go downhill. So basically, you get put inside of a ball. The ball's probably about 8 feet in 8 feet in diameter, if I had to guess. And then the inside portion is probably about 4 to 5 feet. So you can stand up there like you are in like a hamster ball, and you're rolling downhill through different tracks. And you can imagine putting yourself inside of a hamster ball means that like you kind of have control, but you also kind of don't. So for me, part of the challenge that was fun, and there's also water in the ball because it's all plastic to like keep you from getting like burned or anything like that. It lubricates it. A lot of the challenge for me, I should send you some videos, is like trying to stand upright and like roll myself in the ball, because I find that I have a lot of fun with like physically challenging activities. Something that I can kind of like test myself, right? Which is why I like the water rafting, because I can fucking paddle and I can, do shit, and it's like, activating my body. Zorbing, really similar. It's like a challenge. So you're going down there pretty quickly, and you could lose control pretty quickly too. There was one, so the first time I was doing it, I just started doing front flips because I was going so fast that I was just going head over heels over head over heels, doing a flip down like this big hill. And I got out of there and I was like, I don't feel so well. So I took a break and then I went a little less hard. And I would recommend zorbing to anybody who finds himself in the middle of New Zealand.
So it's just like a downhill course. You just kind of like
it's relatively short. It's there's different courses that you can do, and like one of the courses had like a big drop where like you just kind of like the ground falls out from underneath you like a jump, and it's like, oh no, this feels weird. Some of the courses are like straightaway races. Some of them are like, really really windy, so you're trying to like run back and forth and you're getting like bounced around. There's a fourth one that we didn't do, which is just like really steep, really steep, and I'm like, I'm good. But
so you didn't do it. There was no other kind of. You didn't do like any. Like I see that you could do the same thing on water, which doesn't really seem that fun to me. You didn't do that, or you didn't do the smaller ball where you have your legs sticking out and you can run around. You just run into people.
No. I was fully encapsulated. I was double sealed, 2 different zippers into the Zorb. Like I could not get out without help. My nightmare would have been everybody disappearing and me just being stuck in the ball. Like there was some kind of catastrophic event.
You'd have to roll yourself to try and find some sort of like sharp utensil to like ram yourself into to try and get.
It would have been miserable. I would love.
I want to see that. I want to see one of those post-apocalyptic world scenarios, but a guy's stuck in a zorbing ball and has to find his way out.
God, that sounds like a really good bit. I'm gonna remember that. Okay. Everybody needs to go to New Zealand. You can zorb. There's mud baths. It's beautiful. You can zip line. Just so much stuff. So much stuff to do in New Zealand. More stuff than to do in Singapore. But Singapore. I'm just happy that I got to eat all the food. Lot of good cheap food. A lot of good cheap food.
Yes. Very cheap. Very good. I know some fans in Indonesia, they're like waiting. They're like, well, what about the food? It was good. You guys do good food. Good cuisine. Well done.
I forgot to
talk. Well, Joey forgot how to top, so I guess we're going to have to close out the podcast. And it looks like that refractory period is sneaking up on us.
It really is. Everybody, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for the break. Hope you enjoyed TI. Thank you again for watching the morning show. Thank you for listening to us talk about vacations. The Dota season is going to be spinning back up soon. I have to go make a roster announcement video because I don't know if you're aware, but there's a player who retired and now we have to replace him. And I know who it is, and so do you. But we can't tell people about it yet, but I got to go work on it.
We know things that you don't.
Yeah, boy, do they want to know. Anywho, thanks everybody. We'll see you on the next one. I'm trying out the thing where I do like a real hard stop again. I know people like that.